Once again, I've made one TikTok on every single Pokemon in a generation, this time Generation 3, Hoenn, and now here it is in one big compilation for you to enjoy. Oh, and by the way, about a third of the way through Generation 3, I started watching One Piece and then dropping updates on that at the end of some videos. Those have been removed, and then all compiled together and moved to the end of this big compilation for a second mini-compilation for those who both are and aren't interested in seeing that. So sit back, relax, get ready for the aspect ratio to flip, because they're TikToks, and hey, don't forget to go and follow my TikTok, because Generation 4 starts tomorrow. Pokemon number 252, and the start of Generation 3. Treecko. Treecko is absolutely a fan favorite, thanks to Ash getting one in the anime, and the prominent role his evolution had in a certain spin-off. We'll get to that tomorrow. But here's the thing, Hoenn is the seasons of the anime that I've seen the least of, so I'm not really nostalgic for Treecko, so Treecko's kinda my least favorite of the three. Now normally I'd be terrified of being crucified for saying this fan favorite Mon is my least favorite, but the Hoenn starters are all really good, so it's like, it's a stiff competition, so it's understandable if a fan favorite like Treecko is my least favorite. I still like him just fine, but the other two are, they're real good. So yeah, that's Treecko. A fan favorite for many, but he is with some stiff competition this generation. Pokemon number 253. Grovyle. Let's immediately start out by saying, while Treecko was my least favorite of the Gen 3 starters, Grovyle is easily my favorite of the Gen 3 starters' middle stages. And yes, this dichotomy is absolutely thanks to his prominent role in the second Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game, which I am super nostalgic for. It also definitely helps that Ash had Grovyle for such a long time, didn't evolve again until Battle Frontier. So like, from the few bits I've seen of the Hoenn anime, I'm like, yeah, this guy's pretty dang cool. I guess if I needed to specifically say something about the design that I like, the leaf blades on the arms, really cool. So yeah, that's Grovyle. Cool man incarnate over here, thanks to his multiple fantastic depictions. Pokemon number 254. Sceptile. Oh, the dichotomy once again. From least favorite Treecko to most favorite Grovyle, back down to least favorite Sceptile. Yeah, Sceptile is my least favorite of the Gen 3 starters. I still really like him, you know, he looks neat, but once again, I'll say it again, stiff competition. Once again, really cool leaf blade arms, has a real fancy tail, actually, you know, pretty dang useful, relatively speaking, in the games itself. But, yeah, least favorite. Though I guess, shout out to Sceptile delivering the final blow to Darkrai in the anime. It was Ash's Sceptile that did that, right? So, yeah, that's Sceptile. Very cool, but since I don't have any nostalgia for him, he's fine. Pokemon number 255. Torchic. Oh, I love Torchic. He's real cute. Love his running animation. So adorable. Shout out to its gender difference being a singular speck on the bottom of its tail. Still, I get both for my living decks, even though you couldn't tell the difference. To talk about the design itself, I do really like the color scheme, you know, the yellow wings on the orange body. It looks nice. I'll use the classic word I always use, aesthetically pleasing. So yeah, that's Torchic. Absolutely adorable little chick Pokemon. Love him so much. Let's make sure he stays away from that deep fryer. Pokemon number 256. Combusken. I like Combusken just fine. I don't think he falls under the category of awkward middle stage, though he might for some because of his unfortunate shape, body shape. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. Just take a look at it for a second and take a guess. Upon evolving, Combusken has now gained the fighting typing. And Pokemon fans who have played even just a couple games after this one know this is where it began. So yeah, that's Combusken. A fine design for some, an awkward design for others, and a harbinger for what is to come. Though is it really his fault for just being the first? Pokemon number 257. Blaziken. Oh, I love Blaziken. He looks super cool. Love the hair thing on the back, the entire color scheme, just in general. Really cool, really fantastic. And it's really interesting that Blaziken's kind of based off of, like, cockfighting chickens in real life, because you'd think Pokemon would want to, like, stay far away from any sort of real-life animal fighting type things. But hey, shout out to them risking it, because Blaziken looks fantastic. And shout out to that one Blaziken Pokken tournament controversy. If you know, you know. So yeah, that's Blaziken. Absolutely fantastic. Love him. Though too bad Hoenn has too much water, so he's hard to use. I don't really have trouble using him. Pokemon number 258. Mudkip. Here we are. We made it to my boy. Mudkip is easily my favorite of the Hoenn starters. Love him so much. He's so adorable. And no, that's not because of the whole Mudkip internet meme. I didn't even know that was a thing for the longest time, because, by the time I had gained internet literacy, the meme was long since dead, and it was long before it came back post-irony. I just really like him because he's cute. That's about it. And he plays in the mud all adorably. Oh, love him. Adorable little fins, absolutely fantastic. Basically, I like everything about him. So, yeah, that's Mudkip. Absolutely peak. There is a reason he took over the internet as an early meme. Though I didn't even need the meme to fall in love with him. Pokemon number 259. Marshtomp. The dichotomy once again. From my favorite Mudkip to my least favorite Marshtomp. Least favorite middle stage of Gen 3. Heck, of all 9 of the whole Gen 3 starters lines, least favorite out of all of them as well. I don't know, man. His derpiness doesn't do it for me. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Derpiness does not guarantee a like from me. And Marshtomp is actually the perfect counter to people that say they only ever do things in the anime for marketability reasons, because why did Brock's Mudkip, adorable Mudkip, evolve into a Marshtomp and then stay that way for the rest of the series? Marshtomp does not seem very marketable to me. So yeah, that's Marshtomp. Absolutely crazy just how the dichotomy of up and down has been going for the starters this generation, Pokemon number 260. Swampert. This roller coaster of dichotomy, I really gotta stop saying that word, I promise I will after we're done with the starters, is finally over. Because Swampert here, we end on a high note. Swampert, easily my favorite of the Gen 3 starters final stages. Love him. He just looks so cool, so tough, and is tough because water and ground. Oh my, so good. Just this man getting Stab, Surf, and Earthquake in the generation that introduced double battles? Ooh. So yeah, that's Swampert. It really helps that Hoenn is the generation of water, because here you are, surfing through the ocean on your starter that you raise in this fantastic, cool-looking beast, and now your partners together searching the ocean. Pokemon number 261. Poochyena. Other than Umbreon, Poochyena might just be a lot of players' first experience using a dark type, since most of the other dark types back in Johto were locked to low levels in Kanto, or weren't very good for how rare they were in Johto. But yeah, Poochyena is the first early game dark type, which isn't a thing in every generation, but it sometimes happens. It's noticeable. And yeah, I like Poochyena, It's a neat, cute little puppy with the really cool dark typing. So yeah, that's Poochyena. It only took one generation after they were introduced, but finally, Game Freak gave us a dark type that's easily obtainable and usable. Pokemon number 262. Mightyena. I like Mightyena just fine, It's a neat-looking dog. Definitely lays on the intimidation factor, since, it's a dark type, which is the evil type in Japan, so, of course. Though, just like Houndoom, I have seen it drawn very cutely, if that's a word. And, yeah, it can be cute too. It's just a neat little dog. It's just, kind of sucks that it ain't too good, because, early game, so, hey, here's hoping to get something in the future. So, yeah, that's Mightyena. Don't really have too much to say, it's just a neat dog. Or wolf, whatever you want to call it. Pokemon number 263. Zigzagoon. It's literally in the name, Zigzag, but I did not catch on to this fact for a long time. It took until Pokemon went 3D and they made Zigzagoon's model run in zigzags that I finally went, oh, Zigzagoon, I get it now. Honestly, that just goes to show how I just hear a Pokemon's name and accept it as existing, instead of actually thinking about, really, that's its name? Or why is it named that way? Or anything like that. I'm just like, yep, that's its name. But yeah, Zigzagoon, early game, normal type, early game rodent, whatever. He's neat. So yeah, that's Zigzagoon. If there wasn't that story about me being clueless, there really wouldn't be much to say about him. Pokemon number 264. Linoon. For the longest time, it was so hard to tell Linoon and Furret apart, because, you know, both early game rodents, both back-to-back generations, both long boys. But thanks to Furret becoming a living meme and Linoon getting a new regional form and evolution, it's easier to tell the difference now. And just like the Zigzagoon video, oh wow, line in the name, and then he runs in straight lines. Wow, I didn't know that until I physically saw the 3D model doing it. Other than that, he looks fine, you know, just a regular early game rodent, not very strong. So yeah, that's Linoon. Like really, what was Game Freak thinking? 2 generations in a row where the early game rodent is a long boy? Pokemon number 265. Wurmple. Is it just me, or has Wurmple been very slowly rising in popularity over the years? Like, for the longest time, I really don't think anyone cared about Wurmple, but nowadays, it's like, Wurmple's just in that little in-group of those little Pokemon that everyone's like, it's him. I want to say the final nail in the coffin that gave Wurmple popular status is from Legends Arceus, just how he was acted in that game, and then that side quest at the beginning of the game that was around him. But then you talk about his central gimmick, you know, interesting, how he randomly evolves into 1 or 2 different forms, depending on a secret number we can't see. Really interesting. And really random to give to the early game bug. So yeah, that's Wurmple. The slow burn worked out. Now Wurmple, he's famous. Pokemon number 266. Silcoon. One of the 2 forms that Wurmple can evolve into, depending on a secret number that you can't see. So we just have to guess, or hope. You know, it feels random, but it ain't. It's a number. A set number that he gets when you catch him. And other than that, long-winded explanation on Wurmple's gimmick, I don't know, he's just a cocoon. So, yeah, that's Silcoon. I don't know. I don't have a story about Silcoon. Do you have a story about Silcoon? No, I don't think so. Now watch someone in the comment section post a 5-paragraph comment with a crazy story they had about Silcoon. Pokemon number 267. Beautifly. One of Wurmple's final evos, and it definitely shares a lot of similarities with Butterfree, so it's like, eh. Though, of course, for anyone that grew up with Gen 3 instead of Gen 1, Butterfree's the meh Pokemon. Though there is something to say about Beautifly. It has 1, maybe a few more, I don't know every Pokedex entry, but has 1 Pokedex entry at least, that talks about it violently stabbing someone and then draining the liquids from said someone, like, oh. So, yeah, that's Beautifly. I mean, it has beauty in the name, but, like, it... kind of disturbing. Pokemon number 268. Cascoon. The alternate path that a Wurmple can evolve into. Now, Cascoon here... shoot, now I did a long-winded explanation of how Wurmple works with Silcoon, so, think of something quick. Oh, I got it. It has a really neat Pokedex entry where it talks about how it never forgets anything or anyone that attacked it, and when it evolves, it seeks it out, so, you know, don't accidentally kick a Cascoon. It'll get you back. So, yeah, that's Cascoon. That's about it. Pokemon number 269. Nice. Dustox. And finally, we have Dustox, the other form that Wurmple can fully evolve into. And there isn't really too much to say about it. You know, it's weak early game bug, doesn't have that violent stabby stab Pokedex entry that Beautifly had, so it's like, I don't know. I guess we can ask, do I prefer Dustox or Beautifly? And, I don't have a strong opinion either way, you know, they're both meh. I guess we can talk about the Pokedex entry that talks about it being attracted to street lamps, so, you know, it's like a moth. But wait, we have an actual moth coming next generation. Huh. So, yeah, that's Dustox. Meh. Pokemon number 270. Lotad. Lotad is a cute little guy. I like him just fine. Of course, I've seen multiple images of Lotad carrying around even smaller Pokemon than him on his lily pad head. Absolutely adorable. And considering what he evolves into, that kind of makes Lotad a baby Kappa, which is very interesting. We'll get more into Kappas with his evolution tomorrow. So, yeah, that's Lotad. He's just a funny little guy. What more is there to say? Pokemon number 271. Lombre. Now that Lotad has evolved into Lombre, his two major design inspirations are crystal clear. It's genuinely really interesting that they would combine a Japanese Kappa and a Mexican performer into one design. Of course, Kappas are incredibly famous creatures from Japanese folklore, mythology, history. Hopefully one of those words is the correct term. Though Kappas a lot of the time are portrayed as very scary and dangerous, but of course leave it up to Japan to take literally anything scary and turn it into something cute and consumable. So yeah, that's Lombre. Taking two very distinct things from two different parts of the world and combining it into one cohesive design. Pokemon number 272. Ludicolo. Here we have the fun, happy dancing legend Ludicolo himself. Though of course he's a legend, thanks to who he's the signature partner of. We all know it. Good old Mirror B. It also just really helps that water and grass is a fantastic typing. And then you got the fact that one of his abilities doubles his speed in the rain, and rain already boosts his water stab move, so... oh. And of course you just have his unhinged cry in the Detective Pikachu movie. So yeah, that's Ludicolo. I mean, even if he wasn't the partner to a legendary trainer, Ludicolo's still pretty neat. Pokemon number 273. Seedot. Here we have Lotad's counterpart, and by counterpart I just mean version exclusive. And because of that, we gotta immediately ask the question, well, which do I prefer? Let's see here, Baby Kappa or an Acorn? Yes, I know what Seedot eventually evolves into, we'll get to that in 2 days. But for now, Seedot is just pretty meh. So yeah, that's Seedot. Dang, pal. You're an Acorn up against a Baby Kappa? That's rough. Pokemon number 274. Nuzleaf. So, I find Nuzleaf pretty meh, but he is incredibly important for one very specific aspect of Pokemon. You all know it, Nuzlocke. Yes, Nuzleaf is the reason this challenge is called what it is. The original Nuzlocke, based off a comic, the guy in the comic had a Nuzleaf, made him look like some guy named Locke, so Nuzlocke, there you go, that's the name. You know, the original Nuzlocke comic creator is still drawing Nuzlocke comics to this day, though very slowly. But what he has of the black and white arc so far, fantastic. So yeah, that's Nuzleaf. If he wasn't in the right place at the right time, he would have just gone down as meh. But nope, he got lucky, and he is now enshrined in legend. Pokemon number 275. Shiftry. Now that Seedot is fully evolved into Shiftry, we can 100% see why he is the counterpart to Ludicolo, other than being part grass type. Because Shiftry here is also based off of a creature from Japan, the Tengu. Though I definitely think the Kappa is a lot more well-known. Case in point, I know nothing about Tengus. Japan has so much history and so many stories, and I am an expert in none of it. Now as for Shiftry as a Pokemon, meh, he's fine. Water and grass is so much better typing than grass and dark. So yeah, that's Shiftry. It only took the entire evolutionary line, but we finally know why this Acorn ended up being the counterpart to a Kappa. Pokemon number 276. Tailo. Finally made it to the regional bird. Took a little longer than usual. Tailo is fine, you know? I like him just fine. He's cute. I guess I definitely prefer him over last generation's regional bird. I guess, just like how he's a little late in the Pokedex, he's also a little late in the games itself, because you can't get him until the 4th route in the game after you've gone through 2 entire towns. Like, man, it really takes a while to get to Tailo. So yeah, that's Tailo. For how fast he is, it's surprising just how late Tailo is. Pokemon number 277. Swellow. So, I was pretty meh on Swellow for the longest time, but then I just kept hearing whispers in the ether. Guts! Guts! His ability Guts! And I finally looked into it and... oh! Huh! Swellow can actually be kinda decent if you set him up correctly. Swellow's already pretty dang fast. But then, thanks to Guts, if you put a status condition on him, his attack is heightened? Oh. And then he has Stab on Facade, which doubles when you have a status condition. You know, that... so it stacks with Guts, and it's like, oh! Oh, now we're doing some damage. This is the early game bird? No wonder he's so late. So, yeah, that's Swellow. You really gotta make sure you look at abilities, because sometimes they can really elevate a mon. Pokemon number 278. Wingull. Here we have a little seagull that actually lives up to his name with that part water typing. And Wingull's just fine, you know, he's a cute little bird. I like him just fine. Of course, water and flying is a relatively decent typing, as we saw on Gyarados. So yeah, that's Wingull. The seagull lives up to his name, and that's all I really got to say on him. Pokemon number 279. Pelipper. The mail-carrying Pokemon himself, carrying that mail in that big old beak of his. Like we've seen him delivering mail in the Mystery Dungeon series, in the main series, he's probably delivered mail in the anime too. Of course, other than that, Pelipper was pretty dang meh for the longest time, and then Gen 7 rolls around and he gets the ability Drizzle, and oh, he immediately shoots up to top tier. It was like an overnight change, where now Pelipper's decent. So yeah, that's Pelipper. It may have taken a while, but the mailman has finally arrived. He's here to deliver a beatdown on you. Pokemon number 280. Ralts. Ralts is interesting, because it's an early game encounter, earlier than the regional bird even, and, you know, it's really rare, and then, well, just, if you find it, it's well worth the effort, because it evolves into something pretty strong. It can kind of be compared to Abra from Gen 1. Of course, unlike Abra, 1, it doesn't know teleport at the level you can find it at, and 2, you don't need to trade it to get its final form. So yeah, that's Ralts. When I think Hoenn early game, I think Ralts, before I even think about some other mons that are staple early game. Pokemon number 281. Kirlia. Kirlia's a cute little ballerina, I like it just fine. Like, basically, all of its animations are just themed around being a ballerina. And other than that, for how well known the Ralts line is, I really don't have too much to say about Kirlia. It ain't an awkward middle stage, but it ain't a very prominent one either. I guess shout out to Game Freak for letting there be male versions of Kirlia that still wear the dress? Progressive? So yeah, that's Kirlia. It's just a ballerina. Like it's really just a ballerina. Pokemon number 282. Gardevoir. Let me tell you a little story. A story that I've heard from multiple different people who don't know each other. However, it's the exact same story. When they were a kid, Gardevoir was one of their favorite Pokemon, for purely innocent reasons. It looked pretty, it was strong in battle, what have you. They told their friends Gardevoir was one of their favorite Pokemon, and they got weird looks. They didn't know why, though. And then, they finally grew up enough, gained a bit of internet literacy, and found out why people gave them weird looks. Multiple different people who don't know each other have said the exact same story. Internet, we need to talk. So is this one of those scenarios where you say it's someone else's story, but it's secretly your story? Nope, it's not my story. I can tell you my story, though. Thanks to the prominence X and Y gave Gardevoir, it became my friend's favorite Pokemon. And then he proceeded to shove Gardevoir into my face, and then now that I was getting a good look at it, I was like, you know, Gardevoir's actually pretty neat. And now it's also one of my favorites. Like, we really gotta stop kidding ourselves here. Ignoring the entire internet, Gardevoir's a great mon. It's a strong, reliable Pokemon. You can get it right at the beginning of the game. It evolves at a reasonable level. And, in general, Gardevoir just looks beautiful. Now don't get any wrong ideas by me calling it beautiful. I've called other Pokemon, and will be calling other Pokemon, beautiful. What, do I need to switch to the stereotypical word I always use, aesthetically pleasing? But you know, if you think about it, that doesn't work either, because, oh yeah, a straight guy like me calling the woman-looking Pokemon aesthetically pleasing. Try as hard as we might, we just cannot ignore the internet. Maybe I can just get away with using a more juvenile word, like, it looks pretty. So, yeah, that's Gardevoir. Basically the poster child for tainted by the internet, which is very unfortunate, because on its own, Gardevoir is a pretty great mon. Pokemon number 283. Surskit. Surskit is quite a little enigma. An enigma because I actually have something to say about this weak little bug. First off, there's that meme where in the Japanese version of the Gen 6 anime, Surskit's cry is ah. And then you got the fact that, in its home generation of Hoenn, it is a 1% encounter. Bro, Surskit isn't that good. Game Freak, why is it 1%? So, yeah, that's Surskit. Is that really how I'm ending it? Yes. Yes, it is. Pokemon number 284. Masquerain. Masquerain is interesting, because it has one of the best abilities in the game, Intimidate. Now you may be thinking, Masquerain doesn't look that scary, but here's the thing. Those things on both sides of its head, kind of inspired by how some animals in real life have similar things on its body that look like a face to scare off dumb animals from eating it. So that's how Masquerain intimidates other Pokemon. And you know, Masquerain has high special defense, and then Intimidate lowers the opponent's attack, and Bug and Water is a pretty decent typing, so it's like, why isn't Masquerain really good? Oh, what's that? Oh, it lost the Water typing, it's not Bug Flying? Oh, it makes sense now, that's why it's bad. So yeah, that's Masquerain. It may not be scary to you, but it's scary to other animals, or Pokemon. Pokemon number 285. Shroomish. Shroomish is a cute little mushroom guy, I like him just fine. Of course, Shroomish has the nice little fun fact where if you flip his frown upside down, it's still a frown. Though of course, I'd say the thing Shroomish is most known for is the trade-off. Keep Shroomish unevolved all the way to level like 50, and he learns the 100% accurate put-to-sleep Spore. Though, interestingly, in the Gen 3 games, you guys don't even really get to level 50 by the time you get to the Elite Four, so it's like, the trade-off is not worth it in Hoenn. So yeah, that's Shroomish. The ultimate trade-off. But is it worth it? Well, that's up to you. Pokemon number 286. Breloom. I definitely like Breloom. He looks neat. You got a mushroom kangaroo with extendy arms to punch. Pretty neat. And of course, if you waited for Spore on Shroomish, Breloom is the fastest Spore user in the game still, other than Toadscruel, but he has that ability that nerfs him, so Breloom's still the fastest, technically. And Breloom can learn False Swipe, so Breloom might just be the best catching Pokemon. Oh wait, no. Breloom has a 4x weakness and Smeargle exists, so never mind. So yeah, that's Breloom. A great Mon that still to this day, technically, holds a title for World's Best in something. Pokemon number 287. Slackoth. Here we have a lazy sloth that has an ability where he only attacks every other turn, and his stats aren't very good, so it is not the easiest thing to train one up, but it is so worth it. And other than that, there's not too much more to say. We just gotta wait until he evolves. Slowly. Like a sloth. So yeah, that's Slackoth. He's getting there. Slowly. But it'll be worth it when he finally does. Unless we're all dead by then. Pokemon number 288. Vigoroth. Alright, he finally finished his nap, and now Vigoroth here is bursting with energy. And even gameplay-wise, that's the story they're going with, because the only ability he gets prevents sleep. And I'm pretty sure that, like, all of its idle animations just have it jumping in place, if I remember correctly. And where its other stats just marginally increase the usual when a Pokemon evolves, its speed skyrockets. Which has just immediately made it so much easier to train up to its final stage. So yeah, that's Vigoroth. May want to calm down there, bud. You might just wear yourself out if you keep going at this level. Pokemon number 289. Slacking. Oh, he wore himself out. Slacking is an absolute menace, with stats that literally rival legendaries. But of course, he got the same ability Slackoth had, so he can only attack every other turn. Of course, there's some things Slacking can do to work around this, like you get Impact or Yawn, or you can have a partner in doubles, you know, Galarian Wheezing, to get rid of his ability altogether. And let me tell you, on the Hoenn run where I had a Slacking, I was having trouble with the champion, and then Slacking carried, even though he could only attack every other turn. He's that good. So yeah, that's Slacking. Maybe it's good that he used up all of his energy, because if he was at 100%, oh, no one would be safe. Pokemon number 290. Nincada. If I had a nickel for every time Game Freak gave a weak early game bug Pokemon in Hoenn a unique gimmick, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but strange that it happened twice, especially in the same generation. Nincada is incredibly interesting, because you can evolve it regularly with Level Up, but then if you have an empty slot in your party and an empty Pokeball in your bag, you just get a second Pokemon magically for free. Oh, also, Nincada just has 90 defense? Okay then. So yeah, that's Nincada. Definitely very strange what Game Freak did this generation with the early game bug Pokemon. Pokemon number 291. Ninjask. The Pokemon Nincada just naturally evolves into when you level him up to 20. Ninjask is very fast, and then its ability, Speed Boost, boosts its speed every turn, and then you compile that with it learning Swords Dance, so in one turn you up your attack and speed. Of course, Ninjask is a weak bug, so not guaranteed to survive, but ooh, if it survives that first turn, yeah, it can do some damage next turn. Or of course, you can always just go with Baton Pass, which switches you out and gives your boost to the next Pokemon in. Or of course, instead of Swords Dance, you can do Double Team if you want to get real cheeky. So yeah, that's Ninjask. Sure, he has a 4 times weakness and just a weak little bug, but if you let him set up, ooh, you're in a world from pain from either him or his friend in the back. Pokemon number 292. Shedinja. Or Shedinja, whatever. The discarded shell of Nincada, when he evolved, has come to life. Or it's still dead because the part Ghost type. Shedinja is so interesting. It has 1 singular HP at all times, but its ability makes it so it can only be hit by super effective moves, and weather and hazards, and status. Shout out to the fact that through move tutors he can learn Double Edge. So yeah, that's Shedinja. Such a cool, unique Pokemon. So interesting. Pokemon number 293. Whismur. Let me tell you, for the longest time, I, as a dumb, stupid kid, had no clue that Whismur evolved into, well, its evolution. Whismur's all timid and quiet, and that other Pokemon is all loud and such, so they can't evolve into each other. No, you dumb, stupid child, that's the point. It's called progression, from quiet to loud. Stupid, stupid child. So, yeah, that's Whismur. Wait a minute, isn't there like a few times where Whismur is actually kind of loud? Because if that's the case, then that destroys childhood me's argument even more. Pokemon number 294. Loudred. Loudred is interesting. Just look at it. It doesn't look very marketable to me. Yet, it's used like all over the place in just other media. It's a main character in Mystery Dungeon 2. It's in Detective Pikachu. It was a prominent Pokemon in one of those anime shorts that I think was paired with a movie. So yeah, that's Loudred. I guess, go Loudred, you can do it! Get that bag. Become that marketable plushie you always wanted to be. Pokemon number 295. Exploud. Alright, let's continue the theming for this evolutionary line. I had no idea Loudred had an evolution for the longest time. You know, going back to that anime special, it only had Whismur and Loudred in it. And then in Mystery Dungeon, of course, Loudred didn't evolve, so no clue X-Cloud existed. But I guess now that I do know he exists, he looks neat. I guess I like him just fine. I guess a random side tangent, I just read his ability, Soundproof, and an idea popped into my head. Is he the answer I was looking for to finally being able to successfully capture these dang perish-songing Laprases? So yeah, that's X-Cloud. Didn't know he existed as a child, but now that I do, he's neat. Pokemon number 296. Makuhita. Makuhita is a neat little fighting type punching bag. I guess I like him just fine. Of course, Makuhita gets 2 titles in Gen 3. The Ace of the Fighting type Gym, and the first Shadow Pokemon you catch in Colosseum. And Makuhita is pretty decent, with having 60 attack, but then evolving at 24 so he doesn't fall behind, and of course, having the ability, Cuts. So yeah, that's Makuhita. He's a neat little guy. What more is there to say? Pokemon number 297. Hariyama. Hariyama, whatever. Hariyama is an absolute monster. While there are countless times where I can complain about a Pokemon's evolution level being too high, I think this is the one time I can complain about the evolution level being too low. Hariyama just has such high attack and HP that it can tear through anything and then survive all of the hits. And then if you get a slightly smarter player that gives it a status condition for Guts, oh my goodness. So yeah, that's Hariyama. The absolute menace that can just solo through game after game. Pokemon number 298. Azurill. Our first baby Pokemon of Gen 3, and it's a baby Pokemon of Marill, the already honestly kind of baby-looking Pokemon. So, kinda random. Honestly, this just gives credence to Marill being the Pikachu of Gen 2, since it got a baby pre-evolution a generation later. Of course, to get a Azurill, no, you can't just find it in the wild early game, no! You gotta have a Marill bred well holding a specific incense. And then there's that interesting fact where Azurill has a different gender ratio than Marill, so when it evolves, there was a bug for the longest time where it could flip genders when it evolves. Very accidentally progressive, Game Freak, good job. So yeah, it's Azurill. But why? Pokemon number 299. Nosepass. This is the funny nose Rockman himself! Nosepass is, of course, based off the classic Easter Island head statues, and it's also kind of a compass, because there's Pokedex entries talking about it always facing north. And that's used to, like, great effect, honestly, in other media, you know? I think it was in the manga, that's how they take advantage of that to beat the first gym's Nosepass. And then in the anime, you of course see Nosepass all the time on ships to act as a compass. Like, they're taking full advantage of Nosepass, they're doing a great job. So yeah, that's Nosepass. The nose knows where north is, because, well, he's always pointing that way, because magnetic fields, or whatever the Pokedex says. Pokemon number 300. Skitty. Skitty is a cute little cat Pokemon, I definitely do like it. If not for the fact that I just like cats, it's probably because of a specific inside joke that I have with Skitty. Oh geez, I have to explain the inside joke. Basically, the Skitty house. You make it through a dense forest, you find a house, you go into the house, and it's an absolute mess. And there's Skitties everywhere. There's Skitty pictures on the wall, there's Skitty pictures on a laptop sitting on a table, and there's a bed you can sleep in to heal your party, but the bed's also being watched by Skitties. So yeah, that's Skitty. Only significant to me because random joke. You'll understand one day, trust me. Pokemon number 301. Delcatty. It's a good evolution to Skitty. I like it just fine. Another neat looking cat Pokemon. Though I probably shouldn't say good, because Delcatty, not very good. The main ability it's known for is Normalize, which turns every move into a normal type move. But unlike future abilities that change a move's type, you don't get Stab. It just changes everything to normal and that's it. At this point, Game Freak, just give it huge power. It wouldn't even make it broken. It has 70 speed, so it wouldn't outspeed everything. It gets us the regular normal type coverage of special moves, so those won't be affected. So, yeah, huge power is what it needs to become baseline usable. Though apparently it's crazy in Mystery Dungeon, because Double Slap OP. So, yeah, that's Delcatty. It's a cute kitty, and that's about it. Pokemon number 302. Sableye. Sableye is a neat little gem collecting, eating gremlin type of guy. I like him just fine. Of course, Sableye has the title, I think, of the first Pokemon with no weaknesses. Before they introduced Fairy, of course. Though the question then becomes, did they give him mid-stats on purpose then to balance that out? Now you may think he's a tank with high defenses, but no, that's because you're thinking about the Mega. The Mega's a tank. Base form Sableye, exact same attack and defense stat, which is also low. Also, I want to say how it's neat that if he summons a Carbink in Sun and Moon, he'll attack it, because, you know, a gem goblin eating gems. He does attack Carbink, right? It's been a while since I played Sun and Moon. I know he summons him. So, yeah, that's Sableye. The little goblin better run back to his cave, because nowadays he actually has a weakness. Pokemon number 303. Mawile. I passed over Mawile for the longest time, and then I got a Mega, and I was like, ooh, base Mawile is actually pretty neat. Not very strong without that Mega, but still, pretty neat. Like, even though it has, like, one of the best abilities and best typings in the game, it just has been hit with some of the most unfortunate circumstances of all time. Let me explain. Mawile is the counterpart to Sableye. And because Sableye had no weakness, my guess is that they balanced that out by giving Sableye low stats. And because Mawile is the counterpart, they also had to give her low stats, which is kind of just an unfair circumstance. Also, let's get the counter going. Mawile's kinda technically the second waifu of Gen 3, yeah, ish. So yeah, that's Mawile. I definitely think that we can put Mawile in the running for Pokemon with the most unfortunate, unfair circumstance of all time. Pokemon number 304. Aeron. Do I reference that classic bit? Sure, I'll reference the bit. Hey, you know the best thing to name an Aeron? Aeron. If you know, you know. I really like Aeron. One, because, you know, it's a cute little guy. And two, because I know what it evolves into, and ooh, I like his evolution a lot. Of course, Aeron's a wee bit difficult to train up, because it's a weak little guy and doesn't evolve for the first time until level 32. So, you know, 70 attack and 100 defense actually makes it not the hardest thing to train up. Though, of course, you just gotta watch out for that 4 times weakness. So, yeah, that's Aeron. Oh, wait, I got it. Having an Aeron out against a guy with a surprise fighting type coverage, you done messed up, Aeron. Pokemon number 305. Lairon. Lairon is a fine middle stage. I guess I like him just fine, you know, but not too much to talk about because, you know, he's just your typical middle stage, you know? You got the cute first stage and the really cool final stage and then just this fine middle stage. I guess all there is I really have to say about it is, dang, it takes till level 42 to evolve. So, yeah, that's Lairon. He's fine. A fine middle stage. Fine. And, that's about it. Pokemon number 306. Aggron. Oh, here we go. It's him. The legend himself. I absolutely love Aggron. He is so cool. A sky-high 180 defense. The ability Rockhead, so he can just casually use recoil moves without any drawbacks. And just that cry of his is so iconic. And you know, I know that Steelix came first, but like, when I think of iconic Iron Tail users, it's him, Pikachu, and Aggron that I think like are all equal and just in the running for most iconic. So yeah, it's Aggron. Doesn't matter if his Iron Tail misses, he'll just survive the hit and try again. Unless it's a special fighting type move. Pokemon number 307. Meditite. Not the biggest fan of Meditite. Though I do gotta be fair and balanced and give it some credit. It's the only fighting psychic type and Fighting and Psychic is actually pretty decent of a typing. With it, Meditite only has 3 weaknesses, and it generally has coverage for, well, all 3 of said weaknesses. And of course it has a pretty dang good ability in Pure Power, which doubles attack. Like Huge Power. Game Freak, why didn't you just give it Huge Power? So yeah, that's Meditite. Meh. But am I missing out? Yeah, probably. But what does that stop me before? Pokemon number 308. Medicham. While Meditite was barely passable, Medicham, not a fan at all. Just like Jinx, it's them lips. Not a big fan. Very off-putting. Of course, Medicham's actually pretty decent, so you know. Missing out, but oh well. So of course I gotta shout out Medicham for its roles in Mystery Dungeon. In the first Mystery Dungeon, it was on one of the bad guys' teams, and in the second Mystery Dungeon, it was on the waifu's team. Game Freak, you implying Medicham's a waifu? Oh no. So yeah, that's Medicham. I guess we're upping Gen 3's waifu counter to 3? Pokemon number 309. Electrike. I definitely like Electrike. He's a kinda cute, kinda cool, dog, wolf, electric zappy boy. Very neat. Of course, shout out to the fact that in my first Nuzlocke I caught one and he was my first death. You never forget. And you know, shout out for evolving at a reasonable level for his stats, because that's not always a guarantee. So yeah, that's Electrike. A reliable, zappy little boy. Pokemon number 310. Manectric. A fantastic evolution to Electrike. I definitely do like Manectric. Going from a nice green to a nice blue. And maybe some people could find the head thing a little silly, but you know, he's been around long enough that I'm just used to it by now. Manectric is a fantastic, reliable mon to use on a playthrough team. Fantastic special attack and speed, and it even learns some coverage of Flamethrower to deal with the grass types that resist its normal stab. So yeah, it's Manectric. A neat, solid, reliable mon. Pokemon number 311. Plusle. Here we have the first of 2 Pikachu clones for Gen 3. Very interesting that they decided to do 2. It's especially interesting considering the fact that this is the first generation where they're like actually doing the Pikachu clone, because you know, back in Gen 2, well, we have 3 options, Marill, Mareep, Pichu, and any of those 3 options just were not what we think of when we think Pikachu clone. But now here we have Plusle, and yeah, that's Pikachu clone, alright. Oh, right, I actually gotta talk about the Pokemon. I don't know. It's cute, I guess, you know, pretty dang weak, so not too much to do or talk about. So yeah, that's Plusle. It's cute. Pokemon number 312. Minun. And here we have our second Pikachu clone of Gen 3. You know, an interesting thing about Plusle and Minun is that they're soft version exclusives. Basically, yeah, you can catch both of them in one game, but one of them, depending on the game, is a 1% encounter. Of course, you could just have a Pokemon with Static in your party to increase the chances of finding an electric type. Wait a minute. Overworld ability effects weren't introduced till Emerald. Happy hunting in Ruby Sapphire! Oh right, I actually gotta talk about the Pokemon. I don't know. Exact same as Plusle. Cute but weak. The end. So, yeah, that's Minun. I said it once and I'll say it again. Meh, but cute. Pokemon number 313. Volbeat. Immediately after the Pikachu clone, here we have another duo of soft version exclusive red and blue weak Pokemon. Why? At least with Plusle and Minun, they had the excuse of, oh, you know, their ability. It makes them stronger when they're in a double battle together. Volbeat and its counterpart does not have that. So again, why? So yeah, that's Volbeat. Everyone take notes. This is textbook Dex filler. Pokemon number 314. Illumise. Illumise, Illumise, whatever. And now here we have Volbeat's counterpart. And, oh, I got it. Volbeat and Illumise had that neat scene in Mystery Dungeon 2. If you know, you know. And that's all I got. So yeah, that's Illumise. To the truest sense of the word, meh. Pokemon number 315. Roselia. So here's the thing. The evolution Roselia gets next generation is a favorite of mine. But we gotta push that aside. Forget about that. And look at Roselia in the context of itself alone in Gen 3. And when we do that, man, what was the point? Roselia's just some random, weak grass type in Gen 3 that, like, doesn't do anything? It's like, why? I think Roselia really was Dex filler, so it's like, oof, good thing I got looked after in next generation. So yeah, that's Roselia. Just wait till next generation. It'll go from mid to fantastic real quick. Pokemon number 316. Gulpin. Alright, I know what's gonna happen in the comment section down below. Come on now, hurry up and get it out of the way. Thank you for the engagement. Gulpin is interesting, since, you know, it's based off a stomach. At least I've heard it's based off a stomach. I remember hearing about that. And then, you know, poison type because stomach? Acid? Right? Gulpin's odd. It's an odd one, you know? I don't know if I'd want to call it Dex filler, mainly because I've called the last 3 Pokemon Dex filler, and at a certain point, you just gotta be like, stop. This just is another Pokemon. So, yeah, that's Gulpin. If I immediately call it out, I'm immune to the comment section shenanigans. Right? Pokemon number 317. Swalot. The evolution of Swalot is definitely still pretty dang odd. Especially now that it has whiskers, for some reason, that, you know, look like noodles. The main thing that comes to mind when I think Swalot is that one minigame from that online hub in Platinum, you know, the ball throwing one. Mainly because I was too stupid of a child to ever figure out how to get there, and then when I'm finally old enough to figure out how to get there, oh, Nintendo took the online services down, of course. Yes, I know there's a fan-made substitute nowadays, but I'm not exactly dying to play this random minigame from Platinum. So, yeah, that's Swalot. Wait a minute. All those Gulpin jokes, then a literal minigame of throwing balls into Swalot? Huh. Pokemon number 318. Carvanha. Carvanha's a neat little piranha Pokemon. I definitely like it just fine. Of course, Carvanha is known for being used by the Sapphire exclusive evil team a lot, because, you know, it's a water and dark type, and they're a water team. Water evil team, so dark. Yeah, makes sense. And here's a nice little fun fact for you. Carvanha, in Gen 3, doesn't learn a single water-type move by level up. Game Freak, this is Generation 3. Why do we still have this problem with some Pokemon? So yeah, that's Carvanha. A very fitting Pokemon for the role that they ended up giving it. But here's hoping next generation he actually learns a water-type move. Pokemon number 319. Sharpedo. Sharpedo is a really neat, interesting mon with so much. First off, I forget if it's Generation 1 or 2 lost mons, but there's definitely, you know, some sort of like half shark-ish design that was like scrapped that definitely looks like it inspired Sharpedo, so great that they brought that idea back. Sharpedo's only one of 3 Pokemon that got like a custom model when you use it for surfing in Auras, which is really neat. And of course, just Sharpedo's hunting you down the second you get into the water in the Isle of Armor was such a surprise and cool moment. And you know, it's the evil team leader's ace for Sapphire version. So yeah, that's Sharpedo. A very storied history. Very neat mon. Pokemon number 320. Wailmer. Wailmer's a neat whale Pokemon. I definitely like him just fine. He's very round, you know, like a beach ball, which is very fitting because Hoenn, sandy beaches, vacation, tourist destination, all that. Though of course, in classic Game Freakism, it takes till level 40 to evolve this man, and that's just that's a bit much. And my guess for that high level is because you need his evolution for a puzzle for unlocking some legendaries. So I definitely think that, you know, if Wailmer's evolution was not needed for that puzzle, he would evolve at like level, like, what, 30? 32? So yeah, that's Wailmer. Beach ball looking at. Pokemon number 321. Wailord. Oh lord, would you look at the size of that boy? Wailord, of course, is most known for just being one of the biggest Pokemon of all time because he's a whale. And then you encounter him in battle and he's all tiny because only recently, like really recently, has Game Freak finally decided, yes, we're gonna do scaling on Pokemon. Like, you know, it's just the funniest thing to see just a huge Wailord out in the distance in the Isle of Armor. Then you run up to it, you encounter it, and in battle it's all tiny. Shout out to the meme that Dynamax Wailord would break the game. Or Mega Wailord would break the game, or I guess anything Wailord extra would break the game. So yeah, that's Wailord. He big. And here's hoping the next game that he's in has proper scaling, so we can see how big he is. Pokemon number 322. Numel. Numel's a neat little fire camel. I definitely like him just fine. Though with that slow speed and 4 times weakness to the water type, especially considering the region he's in, Numel doesn't have the best of times. Though he does get Simple, a fantastic ability that doubles any stat changes, though the only stat buffing move he gets in Gen 3 is Amnesia. But I mean, I guess going immediately 4 times Special Defense might help him survive something. So yeah, that's Numel. He's a tank, unless you find some water, which is kind of everywhere in Hoenn. Sorry, Numel. Bad luck. Pokemon number 323. Camerupt. I definitely like Camerupt. It's a neat idea, having a camel whose 2 humps are replaced with volcanoes, especially considering there's an actual volcano in its native region of Hoenn. Neat execution. I like the idea. Of course, Camerupt is most known for being the ace to the evil team leader of Ruby, though he is a lot easier to take down than Sapphire thanks to that 4 times weakness to one of the most abundant things in Hoenn. Maybe that's why he's trying to get rid of all the water in Hoenn. To protect his Camerupt. He cares. So yeah, that's Camerupt. A neat idea. And pretty decent if you don't run into any water. Oh, who am I kidding? It's Hoenn. Anywhere we turn, we're gonna find water. Pokemon number 324. Torkoal. Torkoal is a neat fire turtle. I do like him just fine. He actually came in pretty dang clutch against the champion in my Alpha Sapphire playthrough. Torkoal is a setup tank, and there's multiple things you could have him set up. Maybe a Shell Smash, maybe a Sunny Day, maybe a status effect. Though of course in Gen 7 onward you don't even gotta worry about setting up Sunny Day, because he just gets Drought now. Though his older ability, White Smoke, isn't something to scoff at either, because you can't lower his stats no matter how much he sets up. So yeah, that's Torkoal. I'd say all he needs to do is set up a Shell Smash to deal some work, but even at +2, that 20 speed, he ain't outspeeding nothing. Pokemon number 325. Spoink. Spoink is a neat little mon, I guess. I guess I like him just fine, though I guess a little less than the other mons I've recently said I like just fine, you know? A little less, but still fine. Of course, Spoink is most known for the very morbid Pokedex entry, where if it stops bouncing, its heart stops, and it literally dies. So of course there's the classic question, well, how does he sleep? Does he really bounce while he's in the middle of eating? Like, how does he work? So yeah, that's Spoink. A very sad existence indeed. No, not the whole bouncing heart thing, just the fact that he's a meh-mon. Pokemon number 326. Grumpig. Finally, Spoink has evolved. He's averted death, but he's met an even worse fate, becoming a mid-Pokemon! Grumpig's pretty you know. Highest stat is Special Defense. Its other stats just, like, aren't that good, so it's like, It takes a level 32 to evolve the man. Honestly, I see him more as a level up at 28 kind of mon, you know? So, yeah, that's Grumpig. Do we want to do that live long enough to become the villain quote with Grumpig, or is that a bit too much? And of course by villain, I mean mid-Pokemon. Pokemon number 327. Spinda. Spinda is a very interesting mon because of the whole, its body, the spots on its body are like randomly generated by an algorithm, and there's like a billion possibilities or whatever the heck that number is. It's just really interesting how they're just giving all these little gimmicks to all these random little Pokemon. I like it. Though of course, other than that, Spinda isn't really that good. All of its stats are literally just 60. So yeah, that's Spinda. Oh hey, I haven't even made any drunk jokes about Spinda yet. That's what I call restraint. Or just plain being forgetful. Pokemon number 328. Trapinch. Trapinch, and in fact the entire Trapinch line, is a fan favorite. And so, would you be surprised to hear me say that I like the entire Trapinch line too? Trapinch definitely looks pretty cute, but he's very dangerous. Don't let that fool you. This man hides in quicksand and then just bites you the second you fall into it. And that's actually reflected in his stats, because Trapinch has a whopping 100 attack for being a first stage. And that actually kind of helps, because Trapinch has evolved to level 35 for the first time. But with that 100 attack, if you use him smartly, you might be able to get some KOs and not need him to solely be an EXP sponge in the back until he evolves. So yeah, that's Trapinch. He's a fan favorite, a deadly, a baby. Pokemon number 329. Vibrava. Vibrava is a really neat evolution for Trapinch, you know? It becomes a dragon type. I can just only imagine the hype that people got when they were playing through Hoenn blindly for the first time. They had a Trapinch on their team, it finally evolves at level 35, and oh! It becomes a dragon? And Vibrava's pretty interesting, because it has less attack than Trapinch, and it's now sitting at a solid 70 attack instead of the 100 of Trapinch, though most of those stats go into the speed. Trapinch was a 20, it's now a 70, so yeah, you know, it balances out. It's no longer too top-heavy. So yeah, it's Vibrava. A neat middle stage, with a draconic surprise for those that are new here. Pokemon number 330. Flygon. We got Vibrava to level 45, and he finally evolved into the absolute fan-favorite legend of Flygon. I do really like him. He's finally back to having 100 attack, but now all of his other stats are actually, well, good. They aren't on the level of a pseudo-legendary, but they're still, you know, he's still a good mon. Especially because Ground Dragon, great typing. And man, it really is the saddest thing that Game Freak just didn't give him a Mega because they couldn't come up with an idea. Like, just lock a guy in a room and tell him he can't come out until he has a design for Mega Flygon. For legal reasons, that's a joke. So, yeah, that's Flygon. A fantastic fan-favorite Pokemon that really deserves something at this point. I'll take anything. Pokemon number 331. Cacnea. Cacnea is a fine little cactus Pokemon. I guess I like him just fine. One interesting thing to say about him is that thanks to his ability, Sand Veil, he doesn't take damage from Sandstorm, even though he's only a grass type. Which, you know, just makes perfect sense, because he's a cactus and a desert, so of course he wouldn't take damage from the main weather in said desert. Other than that, there's not too much more to say about Cacnea, so I want to use this time to hype up Hoenn's desert theme. It is fantastic. One of my favorite route themes just in the entire series. Like, I ain't even that nostalgic for Hoenn, but that desert theme, oof, that's pretty good. So yeah, it's Cacnea. I would not be surprised if they solely gave Sandveil the ability of protection against Sandstorm purely because they just wanted Cacnea to not take Sandstorm damage. Pokemon number 332. Cacturne. Cacturne's a neat looking Pokemon. I like him just fine. Has a neat hat. Now, Cacturne's actually a little scary, thanks to one of its Pokédex entries, talking about how a group of them, will follow you in the desert at night, waiting for you to collapse. I don't know much about creepypastas, but honestly that sounds like one in the making. And, you know, since he's a dark type, this is all pretty fitting. In fact, the timing is kind of a little too bad, because we just missed Halloween, and covering Cacturne on Halloween, that would have been fitting, honestly. So yeah, that's Cacturne. The spooky, creepypasta in the making Pokemon himself. Pokemon number 333. Swablu. Swablu is a cute little cloud bean Pokemon. I definitely do like it. And, spoiler alert, but it turns into a dragon. And you know, I do really like dragons. And you know, I just love that Game Freak is finally giving random route Pokemon the dragon typing. You still have to work for it. They have high levels to evolve, but still. And for Swablu, it's pretty dang difficult to raise up because it's a tank, so it doesn't have high attacking stats, and then evolves at level 35. It's like, oof. I've done it before, but it's difficult. So yeah, that's Swablu. The Cloud Bean Dragon to be. Well, if you have the patience, that is. Pokemon number 334. Altaria. Altaria, whatever. I definitely like Altaria. It's a cute, pretty cloud, bird, dragon thing. Now, Altaria is a tank, it being one of the few Pokemon to get access to the move Cotton Guard, which buffs its defense by 3 entire stages. But it's also kind of feared as a sweeper because of the flying-type gym leader's Altaria that has Dragon Dance and Earthquake. Though ironically, even though Cotton Guard's I'd say synonymous with Altaria, it wasn't introduced till Gen 5. So yeah, it's Altaria. It's a tank, it's an attacker, it's whatever you want it to be, because it's a dragon, and dragons are very neat and very strong. Pokemon number 335. Zangoose. Zangoose is a neat little edgy-looking ferret Pokemon. I guess I like him just fine. Of course, Zangoose is most well known for his rivalry with the Pokemon we'll be talking about tomorrow. In fact, he has such a rivalry with this Pokemon that there's literally special code in the game, so a wild Zangoose will attack this other wild Pokemon if they're, together, as we see in Horde battles in X and Y. Let me tell you, it is not easy catching a Zangoose out of that horde when the other 4 Pokemon are trying to kill him. So yeah, it's Zangoose. A Pokemon with rivalry built into his DNA, or into the game code when it comes to X and Y. Pokemon number 336. Seviper. Here we have Zangoose's eternal rival, and arguably the more famous of the two, thanks to, Team Rocket getting one in the anime. And then, raise your hand if you were a stupid child that, honestly, I'm gonna say fairly, thought Seviper evolved from Arbok because it replaced Arbok in the anime. It's like, come on, what were you thinking? That was gonna happen to so many children. And quick story about Seviper, I got one with its hidden ability in White 2, saw that its hidden ability passes through screens, and I'm like, oh, that's so good, I gotta use it! Seviper's ability did not come in handy once throughout the entire playthrough. So yeah, that's Seviper. While Zangoose may have the upper hand when it comes to stat distribution, Seviper has the upper hand when it comes to fame. Pokemon number 337. Lunatone. Lunatone, and its counterpart, are definitely seen as pretty middling, kind of Pokemon, just little rocks made out of the sun and moon, and that's about it. Though, here's the thing, I caught a Lunatone in my first ever Nuzlocke, and he actually put in some work. Until he and 90% of my team died to a boss fight. It's just how the Nuzlocke goes. So yeah, that's Lunatone. He may seem mid, but try using one. Pokemon number 338. Solrock. Solrock, just like its counterpart from yesterday, is a pretty middling, kind of Pokemon. But I need to be fair, because, I hyped up Lunatone yesterday since I actually used one, so, let's look at Solrock. Let's see what he's all about. Let's see here. He has higher physical attack than special attack, so opposite of Lunatone, of course. Taking good advantage of that rock stab typing. Ooh, actually gets a rock slide via learning level up. That's good. Not many of the rock types can get that. Ooh, explosion. Okay. Maybe Solrock is usable. So yeah, that's Solrock. Will I put my money where my mouth is and use one? We'll see. Maybe one day. Pokemon number 339. Barbroach. Barbroach, whatever. Barbroach is he's a fish. I don't really got too much to say about Barbroach. He's kind of like the generic fish every generation, but I'd argue he has a bit more than just, like Goldeen, for example, because, water and ground. He has that water and ground typing. That's a good typing. And he has a interesting design of a long boy instead of just a fish. So, that's, like I said, more interesting. Oh, okay, one interesting thing. In Gen 3, if you keep him from evolving for one extra level, Mans gets Earthquake. So, yeah, that's Barbroach. I know I said he's more interesting, but that still doesn't mean I have anything to say about him. Pokemon number 340. Whiscash. Whiscash is pretty meh. Well, I guess I like him just fine. Which is kind of a shame because Whiscash has one of the best typings in the game, Water Ground, but he's just not very good. His highest stat is HP, and sure, he only has one weakness, but that's a 4 times weakness, my guy. And neither of his regular abilities are any good. Of course, the most well-known thing about Whiscash is that one time in the anime where he defeated a Master Ball. I haven't even seen that episode, but it's just that well-known. So, yeah, that's Whiscash. I should not be saying meh to a water and ground type, but here we are. At least he has a funny face. Pokemon number 341. Corphish. Corphish is a fine Pokemon. I guess I like him just fine. Of course, he's most well known for Ash having one in the anime. Though I've barely seen any of the Gen 3 anime, so I couldn't tell you the personality of Ash's Corphish and any fun battles or funny moments about what happened with him. So all I got is the game Corphish and physical attacking water type. Ooh, yeah, I'm gonna have to wait till next generation to be usable. So yeah, it's Corphish. He's great. Probably. If you watch those corresponding seasons of the anime. Pokemon number 342. Crawdaunt. Crawdaunt is a fine Pokemon. I guess I like him just fine. Certainly interesting that Corphish evolved into a Dark type. Did not really see that coming, and I don't think there were really many hints with Corphish himself. And you know, I'm a little confused as to why they wouldn't evolve Ash's Corphish, because I get not evolving a starter, but Corphish to Crawdaunt really isn't that drastic of a difference. Anyways, Crawdaunt is a physical attacker, and both of his stabs are special. Ooh, tough luck, pal. See you next generation. So, yeah, that's Crawdaunt. A surprise evolution that no one saw coming. Like, really, was there even one singular hint in Corphish that he would become a Dark type? Pokemon number 343. Baltoy. Baltoy is a neat little Pokemon. I guess I like him just fine. Though that evolution level of 36 is a bit ridiculous, especially considering the fact that he's a tank, so low attack, so he really will be just an EXP sponge in the back until he finally evolves. What's worse than a first stage Pokemon? A first stage tank Pokemon. So yeah, that's Baltoy. Classic Game Freak, making a Pokemon that doesn't need it evolve at a unreasonably high level. Pokemon number 344. Claydol. Claydol's an interesting Pokemon. I guess I like him just fine. Claydol is one of those Pokemon that has its big main body, and then a bunch of little things around it that it can control, you know, like mini-me's, if you could call it that. And it has the potential to lead to really interesting looking fight scenes in the anime. Of course, Gen 3 is the season of the anime I've seen the least of, so did they use Claydol to full effect? That's my question. And in the games, Claydol is a tank, and, you know, I just really haven't used one. I don't use tanks too often. So, yeah, that's Claydol. A tank that, ironically, has the potential to be in some really good fight scenes, if used correctly. Pokemon number 345. Lileep. Finally, after skipping Generation 2, here in Gen 3 we finally have another fossil Pokemon. And Lileep is pretty interesting, pretty odd. It's one of those Pokemon that has a false set of eyes on, you know, its body, and then its real eyes are those yellow dots in the black abyss up top. Now, Lileep is a tank that doesn't evolve till level 40, so it's pretty difficult to train up. But I will say, proudly, that I have used one on a team before. I made it work. So yeah, it's Lileep. A mysterious enigma that's really difficult to train up. But if you do, it is well worth it. Pokemon number 346. Cradilly. Cradilly, Cradilly, whatever. So, if we were to put all the fossil Pokemon on a list, Cradilly is definitely one of my least favorite. However, I still like Cradilly, it's neat. It's grass and rock typing, which are like two of the types that are like considered low tier, work really well together, turning a bunch of weaknesses into just now neutral damage. And since Cradilly is a tank, that's a good thing. Grass and rock is such an odd typing, because whenever you think of a grass type, you always think, oh yeah, I can beat it with a fire or flying type move. Nope, you gotta use a steel move to beat this grass type. So yeah, it's Cradilly, taking two bad types and becoming an incredible tank with them. Pokemon number 347. Anorith. Anorith is a neat fossil Pokemon. I definitely do like him. I really like just every piece of the design. You know, it really screams fossil. And yes, definitely prefer him over Lilip. And in fact, since his two highest stats are attack and speed, Anorith is actually usable, and probably won't need to be as much of a EXP sponge in the back like Lilip would need to be. So yeah, it's Anorith. A neat looking fossil that really looks like a fossil. Pokemon number 348. Armaldo. Armaldo is fantastic. Absolutely one of my personal favorite fossil Pokemon. Though I do need to be fair and balanced, Armaldo does not learn many good moves in Gen 3, doesn't learn Swords Dance or Rock Slide, unless it's an Egg move or a Tutor move in the post-game of Emerald, not even Ruby Sapphire. Luckily, by the time of the Gen 3 remakes, he has his moveset all down, and even though he still doesn't learn Rock Slide, it's now an easily accessible TM. And shout out to Armaldo and Mr. Dungeon 2 being the Guildmaster's caretaker? Teacher? It's been a while since I've played that side story. So yeah, it's Armaldo. A neat looking fossil that just needed a generation or two to get going. Pokemon number 349. Feebas. Ah yes, Feebas. The infamous Feebas. Feebas, the Pokemon where you can only find him in one route in the game, and you can only find him by fishing, and you have to fish on a specific tile. A random tile. 6 random tiles throughout the entire 130 tile water of that route. And then to evolve him, you gotta max out his beauty stat by making some Pokeblocks. And then in Gen 4, there's only 4 tiles, but there's less tiles of water, but these 4 tiles randomize every day. Who'd be wild enough to do all those hunts? How you doing? So yeah, it's Feebas. I'd say kids these days don't know how hard it is to get a Feebas, but nope, they kept it the same in the Gen 4 remakes, so they know. Pokemon number 350. Milotic. Or Milotic, whatever. Milotic is a really beautiful Pokemon that I do absolutely love. And of course, it's notorious for obtaining, as I went over yesterday with its pre-evo. Though nowadays, Milotic is a lot easier to get. And here's the thing, just because I went through those obnoxious Feebas hunts doesn't mean I'm not happy that it's now easy for everyone to get one. You know, it's about reasonability. 6 random tiles out of 130 versus in the latest game, it's in one cave that's just hard to find the entrance to. That's fair, that's reasonable. So yeah, it's Milotic. I guess you could consider it a beautiful trophy, considering how hard it is to get in some of the games. Pokemon number 351. Castform. Cast form, whatever. Castform is a very polarizing Pokemon. Because back in the day, I remember it littering everybody's top 10 least favorite Pokemon lists. And then other people just came out of the woodwork suddenly and were like, no, actually Castform's on my top 10 favorite Pokemon lists. And then he started appearing on those. Like really, what other Pokemon is able to inhabit so many top favorite and so many top least favorite lists? So what do I think? He's mid, but I'm not offended by his existence. I understand he's based off a water molecule, but I understand that people can misinterpret that design. And it really sucks that he's weak with that interesting gimmick. So yeah, it's Castform. May not be able to tell by looking at him, but he is a very controversial figure. Pokemon number 352. Kecleon. Our boy Kecleon here really isn't too good. His highest stat for some reason is special defense. That's kind of random. Well, that is. Kecleon's pretty mid in the regular games. If you've played Mystery Dungeon, you know. This man's a force to be reckoned with. Also, yes, I'll agree with the popular sentiment that everybody else says, that the purple Kecleon should have been Kecleon Shiny. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's Kecleon. Mid or Menace, depends on which game you're playing. Pokemon number 353. Shuppet. Shuppet is a neat-looking ghost Pokemon. I do like him just fine. Of course, he looks real stereotypical, you know, thing under a sheet. And, well, I do like him. Evolving at level 37? Classic Game Freak. Also, is Shuppet one of those Pokemon that has one of those, it's this other Pokemon but dead theory? Because, like, there's a few ghost-type Pokemon that, you know, people have given that theory to. So, yeah, let's shove it. A neat, stereotypical-looking ghost. Pokemon number 354. Bayonet. Bayonet's a pretty neat Pokemon. I definitely do like him. He's definitely very spooky. With the whole zipper theme and the whole Pokedex entry that talks about how it's a doll that was abandoned and now came to life and is hunting for the person who abandoned it. Very creepy. Though I got a question. If that's how Bayonet came to life, why does it have a pre-evo? Why is there more than one? Like a lot more than one? Methinks Game Freak didn't think this one through. So, yeah, that's Bayonet. You know, he actually has a lot in common with just a typical scary story. As in, if you think about it too hard, you'll immediately ruin it and find all the plot holes. Pokemon number 355. Duskull. Duskull is a neat little ghost Pokemon. Definitely a lot more conventionally spooky than his counterpart Shuppet. Now, Duskull has this, I guess, gimmick, you could say, where he only has one eye, and then just moves that eye left and right in both of his sockets. And this kind of confused me as a child when I first got into this series. Mainly because Duskull was, just like every other Pokemon at the time, only represented by, you know, a static 2D image, and then they put him at an angle, so I could only, like, see one side of his face. So it's like, you say he only has one eye, but, like, I can't tell. And of course now the 3D sprite makes it obvious, with his eyelid animation moving his eye back and forth. So yeah, it's Duskull. A spooky, one-eyed guy. Pokemon number 356. Dusclops. It's been a while, but my newer generation brain strikes again, because my boy Dusclops here really does not look like a final Evo to me. He looks like a middle stage to me. Which doesn't even fully work in this case, because he has a ghost counterpart, which only evolves once. But hey, that's just how it goes when your first Pokemon generation was 4. Now, Dusclops' horror is on the more speculative side. Its Pokedex talks about how inside it is basically a black hole and nothing that ever goes in is able to come out. Like, spooky if it's true, but is it true? But do you want to test it if it is? So yeah, that's Dusclops. You know, the Pokemon ruined by my new generation brain. It does not look complete, I'm sorry. Pokemon number 357. Tropius. Or Tropius, whatever. Tropius is a neat looking Pokemon, I definitely do like it. I'm definitely in the camp of people who say Tropius deserves something at this point. Anything, really. Because Tropius is one of those Pokemon whose highest stats are all defensive, but they aren't that high, and then it has a 4 times weakness. Game Freak, why do you keep doing this? So yeah, it's Tropius. You know, now that Dunsparce got something, I need a new Pokemon to stand behind and say it needs something. Maybe Tropius is the one. Pokemon number 358. Chimecho. Chimecho is one of those Pokemon. Not very strong, found in one patch of grass, off the beaten path, rarely. It is such a trophy Pokemon, it's not even funny. Like, it's a wind chime. An object, just like a trophy. So, it really is a trophy Pokemon. And then Chimecho gets a pre-Evo next generation, making it a lot easier to find next generation, so it's perfectly understandable if people think it's a Gen 4mon. Especially if they're like me and didn't watch the Gen 3 anime where James got one. So yeah, that's Chimecho. A literal trophy Pokemon. Because, you know, I'm sure there's a competition or two that has the trophy being a wind chime. Pokemon number 300 and... Wait a minute. It's not November no more. 1 second. There we go. Much better. Pokemon number 359. Absol. Oh, I love Absol. He's very cool. To kind of paraphrase a certain YouTuber, he's very edgy, but I don't care. I love him. You know, I think I deserve a little bit of leeway. You know, I've said I love a lot of cute Pokemon, a lot of really fierce Pokemon. Now here we have Absol. Very edgy, and I absolutely love him. And you know, Absol's whole story actually really fits well with the whole edginess, you know, being misunderstood. Like, classic emo, misunderstood. You know, because he warns about disasters, but people think he caused the disasters, you know. Though I do gotta be fair, physical attacking dark type, not the best in Generation 3. Luckily just one generation later, he's actually usable. Though I do want to use an Absol on a Gen 3 playthrough and just see if I can make it work. So yeah, that's Absol. Mr. Edgelord himself, and I absolutely love him. You know, I've used love like way too many times in this video. Don't get me wrong, Absol isn't my favorite Pokemon or anything. I'm just bad with words. Pokemon number 360. Why not? Alright, now this is a baby Pokemon where I can 100% stand behind the "why does this exist" crowd. Also, if anybody responds with, "well, why not?" your life is forfeit. In Minecraft. I'm gonna grief your house. In Minecraft. Like, all why not really is DLC for Wobbuffet in a way to just let him have the option to learn Charm or Encore. Because you're definitely not going to be keeping Splash, I know that. So, yeah, that's why not. If you need to ask, make sure to say, what was the point? Instead of asking, why? Considering what the possible response is. Pokemon number 361. Snorunt. Snorunt's a neat little guy. I guess I like him just fine. Interestingly, even though this is Gen 3, Snorunt here is the first pure Ice type. And Snorunt's cry is just one of those cries that I vividly remember, probably thanks to Pokemon Ranger 2. And you know, Snorunt's just a neat little guy. Shivering, clutching a blanket to him, the classic maneuver. So yeah, that's Snorunt. Someone get this man an extra blanket, he's still shivering. Pokemon number 362. Glalie. Glalie is interesting. Like, legit a little scary looking, you know? Just this big face, this big floating face, and it's gonna bite you. It's very angry looking, you know. And it really is just the wildest thing that they gave Ash one in the anime. Like, I didn't know Glalie was that marketable. Oh, and once again, basically just the normal at this point. Game Freak. Level 42? Really? So, yeah, it's Glalie. Never judge a book by its cover, because while the face may look scary to you, according to Game Freak, it's the second highest level of marketable. Pokemon number 363. Spiel. Here he is! It's him! My boy! Now this is a seal. Forget about Seal. This is a real one. Spiel is of course just a fan favorite for being this adorable round boy that rolls around. And you know, instead of your classic seal playing with a ball, you got Spiel being the ball and the seal at the same time. This man cannot be stopped. So yeah, it's Spiel. One of the legendary round boys himself. Pokemon number 364. Celio. Just like a beach ball, the enthusiasm immediately deflates now that we have the middle stage Celio. He's fine, I like him just fine, but as usual, those evolution levels, 32 into 44 out of bro. Though I mean, Celio isn't the worst, you know, I've used one twice, and he's been relatively helpful throughout the mid-game, and then normally just evolving like right before the final boss, basically. So yeah, it's Celio. Tough luck having to follow Spiel, man. Never stood a chance. Pokemon number 365. Walrein. Absolute classic Pokemon. Going from the adorable little Spiel to the really cool and ferocious final stage Walrein. And that's one thing that I do really like about Pokemon. Because yeah, I do really like Walrein. You know, he has great bulk, a respectable special attack to take advantage of both of his stabs, just fantastic all around. And of course, with that typing and that ability thick fat, he just has the really fun fact of taking like, what, 8 times less damage from an ice type move? So yeah, that's Walrein. Ooh, Spiel, I know you evolve into that thing, but be careful, those tusks right there might just pop you. Pokemon number 366. Clamperl. Clamperl is a very odd, interesting Pokemon. I've talked about a lot of random Pokemon getting random gimmicks this generation, and this Pokemon has like multiple. First, it's one of those Pokemon that doesn't learn a single move until it evolves, it's super weak. And then it's a branched evolution that evolves depending on the item it's holding while you gotta trade it. And then to get either of those items, you need to evolve it. Gotta go through some sort of side quest that's like off the beaten path. And then you're only able to choose like one item per save file. And then after going through all that effort, both of his evolutions are very strong. Well,
So yeah, that's Clamperl. Not only is it dex filler, it's time filler if you want to go through the effort of evolving it. Pokemon number 367. Huntail. The first possible evolution of Clamperl, and really isn't too good. I mean, it has a respectable attack and defense stat, but that speed, that really hampers it. And it's so odd that it's just a pure water type. Like it really should have been part dark type. And of course, the naysayers will then come in and say, well, yeah, but the only dark type moves it learns is Bite and Crunch, and that's a lot of Pokemon learn that, and should they be a dark type? But here's the thing, one, it looks like a Pokemon that could use more dark type moves, you know? Let the thing learn Dark Pulse. It should be able to, even though it's a physical attacker. And more importantly, to step on tomorrow's video's toes a little, its counterpart really should have been Water Psychic type, so it being Water Dark would have been great counterpart synergy. So yeah, it's Huntail. Should have been another type, not very good, hard to get. Ooh, 3 strikes, you're out. Pokemon number 368. Gorbis. The other Pokemon that can evolve from Clamperl. And just like its counterpart Huntail, Gorbis really should have been a Water Psychic type. Like, in its debut generation, it learns more Psychic-type moves than Water-type moves via level up. And yes, 2 of those Psychic-type moves are buffing moves, but still. Of course, Gorbis has the exact same problem as Huntail, where it has some good special attack, but terrible speed, so it's just not good. So yeah, that's Gorbis. You know, actually, now that Fairy typing the thing, they could have done that too. Especially because they gave a bunch of older Pokemon the Fairy typing, so like they could have done that. Yes, that would have broken the balance between it and Huntail, but hey, Game Freak has broken the balance between counterparts before.
Pokemon number 369, nice. Relicanth. Relicanth is an odd-looking Pokemon, but that's by design, since it is a 100 million year old fish that literally hasn't changed in those 100 million years. Now, accepting that it looks odd on purpose, well, that's up to you. As for me, I like him just fine. He's fine. Not very strong in the games. The only thing he's really useful for is being a key to some legendaries. So, yeah, that's Relicanth. Honestly, Relicanth is kind of like the perfect embodiment of that one meme of like it or not, but this is peak performance or something. I'm sure I'm not the first person who's given Relicanth that meme. Pokemon number 370. Luvdisc. Luvdisc is a very weak Pokemon. Its highest stat is Speed, but it also has the ability Swift Swim. So literally, the only use it has is sending it out after somebody else set up Rain, having it use a 75% accurate Sweet Kiss, hoping to hit, and then hoping the opponent hurts itself in confusion. Though Luvdisc does have one more use. You all know it. Heart Scale farming. The Heart Scale is an item that's needed to relearn moves, and Luvdisc is the only Pokemon that holds it, naturally. But actually, in the more recent games, you don't need a Heart Scale. Oh no, Luvdisc lost its one and only job. So yeah, that's Luvdisc. I'd say it's useless other than, but considering the recent games, no, actually, it's completely useless now. Pokemon number 371. Bagon. Our first pseudo-legendary of Generation 3. And yes, first, there's 2 this generation. Bagon is a neat little dragon that has Pokedex entries talking about how it likes jumping off cliffs because it wants to fly. And considering what it evolves into, yeah, it's a neat little story. Though, of course, getting it in the games is pretty dang difficult, because first you need to get all 8 gym badges and then go to this one area, and then you finally find him and he's like at level 20 and it's the end of the game, so So yeah, that's Bagon. A neat little dragon Pokemon that's already preparing for the monster it's gonna become. Pokemon number 372. Shelgon. Soccer ball looking at. Just like last generation's Pseudo, this middle stage is a cocoon. But interestingly, they stopped doing cocoons after this for the pseudo-legendary middle stage, so yeah, this is the second and last one. And maybe that's a good thing, because when I look at, a middle stage cocoon, I think super weak, it doesn't know any moves, like the bug Pokemon. So of course, childhood me was like, man, Pupitar, Shelgon, they're both useless until they finally evolve in such a high level, though. Though of course, nowadays I do, know that they are stronger than their first stage and usable. So yeah, that's Shelgon. Wild that he's the end of a trend that just started last generation. Pokemon number 373. Salamence. Our boy Bagon did it. He can finally fly now. He flies now.
I'm immediately sorry for that one.
Salamence is super strong. Intimidate as his main ability, and then when hidden ability is introduced, he gets Moxie, and he has Dragon Dance, and just, ooh, very strong. And then these mans gave him a Mega, and I kind of just use it to solo the battle facility, because he's just that good. Now, Salamence has gotten criticism for being the most generic-looking dragon Pokemon, and I guess considering many of the other pseudo-legendaries, yeah, sure, I can see it and kind of agree, but I still like him. Probably just because I really like dragons. So, yeah, that's Salamence. Little Bagon got his wish, and he's now a terror of the sky. Pokemon number 374. Beldum. Our second pseudo-legendary for Gen 3. And this is kind of the only generation they did 2 pseudo-legendaries, unless you count that one new Pokemon from the new DLC in Scarlet Violet. And if you thought Bagon was hard to train up, oh boy, strap in! So first you gotta beat the entire game, Elite Four and Champion, and then you get a gift Beldum at level 5, after you've beaten the entire game. Bruh. But Game Freak actually kind of accommodated for this, because Beldum requires the lowest level to evolve, both times, for any pseudo-legendary. Oh, and shout out to him having the same catch rate as a legendary at 3, and then the only move he knows is Takedown, so when you find him in the wild in later games, oh boy, hard to get. So yeah, that's Beldum. Any way you slice it, this man is hard to get a hold of, but once you do, oh boy is it worth it. Pokemon number 375. Matang. Once you get Beldum up to level 20, which honestly is pretty dang reasonable for Game Freak, finally, he learns more than Takedown. Matang's pretty neat, with his Pokedex entries talking about how he's 2 Beldums together, and you can very easily tell that by his arms both being Beldum-shaped. And he has decent stats and moves, so getting him up to his final form at level 45 isn't that much of a pain. And shout out to Game Freak for, like I talked about in the Shelgon video, ditching the Cocoon gimmick, not in the next generation, but immediately after with the second pseudo-legendary of the same generation. So yeah, that's Matang. A pretty neat fusion between 2 Beldums. Well, I wonder what happens when you fuse 2 more Beldums together. Guess we'll find out tomorrow. Pokemon number 376. Metagross. So what happens when 4 Beldums are fused together? Well, you get something smarter than a supercomputer, according to the Pokedex. And that's not really fair, because Metagross is also super strong. You can't have Brain and Bronze. There's a balance for a reason. Metagross is a really cool looking Pokemon. I absolutely love him. And, though, do I like him more than Salamence? That's the question. You know, there's other pseudo-dragons that I like even more, so sure, I like Metagross more than Salamence. And you know, Metagross and Salamence actually pair really well together, because Salamence is super weak to Ice and then later Fairy, and then Metagross is a Steel type, so yeah. So yeah, that's Metagross. Mr. Brain and Bronze over here about to throw off the entire balance of everything. Especially when that Mega gets into the picture, oh boy. Pokemon number 377. Regirock. Our first legendary Pokemon of Generation 3. Regirock's a neat little rock golem, I guess I like him just fine. Of course, what's more interesting is how you get him and his brethren. In Gen 1, you had to explore an optional dungeon. In Gen 2, you had to run back and forth between 2 routes until legendaries showed up. And now in Gen 3, you gotta find a secret cave deep underwater and learn how to read Braille. Wild. And one thing to say about Regirock is since all rock-type moves are physical in Gen 3, that means that this man gets to use Ancient Power at full power. So yeah, that's Regirock. The Braille quest begins. Pokemon number 378. Regice. I really hate that. I mean, I guess if it was Regice, then there'd be, what, 2 eyes next to each other, and that would just look weird. If I'm remembering correctly, Regice was, like, really good competitively just for this generation because of that high special defense. But then the physical special split happened, there got a lot more physical moves, and then he just fell off. Correct me if I'm wrong. And back to the Braille hunt. Yes, you could probably just use the internet to figure out what it says, and that's just the easiest option. But you know, back in the day, they had a Braille guide in the Gen 3 guidebooks, which, that's pretty neat. So yeah, that's Regice. Wow, mans fell off harder than paralysis of choice. I don't know who to choose, there's so many. Pokemon number 379. Registeel. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Registeel's the one that's good and usable, right? You know, Steel type, high special defense, and physical defense, so
it stayed relevant longer. I don't remember. And back to the Braille quest. It's really neat how there's all these little things you gotta do, like inside a room, that they had to specifically program. Like, you can't fly indoors, except this one room where you gotta fly, and you don't even fly out of there, it just opens the door when you do. And of course, shout out to all of the Reggie's cries in the Lucario movie. Absolute classic. So yeah, that's Registeel. Well, now that we've covered all the Reggies, we gotta ask the question, which one do I like the most? I don't know, one of the new ones introduced in Gen 8? Pokemon number 380. Latios. Latios, and in turn her brother, are unique firsts for Pokemon, because they're legendaries, but they're not a part of the box art gang, they're not a part of a legendary trio, they're just another set of legendary Pokemon in the game. Of course, Latios is most known for that one time in the movie it was in, where it was a human form disguise and it kissed Ash. Yep, that happened. I mean, considering those original translations of those books in Canlife Library, we shouldn't be surprised. So yeah, that's Latios. You know, the Pokemon that serves as an omen for things to come, be it those books in Sinnoh, or other sub-legendaries. Pokemon number 381. Latios. I didn't really have time to talk about it last time, but Latios is a lot more defensive, where Latios is a lot more offensive, and yeah, no, Latios is like known for just being the mon to go to for competitive battling facilities and all that. It tears through everything with that insane special attack. And diverse move pool to take advantage of that special attack. And now actually talking about their designs, I haven't done that yet, I do really like these Lotties. They're fantastic, you know? Do I use the word? I'll use the word. They're aesthetically pleasing. He said the line. But which one do I prefer? My guy, they're the exact same Mambo, just different colors. I don't know, I like blue more than red. So yeah, that's Latios. Fitting the strong, overprotective older brother stereotype to a T. Pokemon number 382. Kyogre. Our first box art legendary for this generation. Kyogre's a neat, big ancient whale. I definitely like him. Those red lines around him that glow when he uses his powers, real neat. And of course, shout out to getting a custom model when using him to surf in Oraz. Though I gotta say, I kind of prefer his counterpart. But then I also immediately have to say, Kyogre would win in a fight. Base form, that is. When it comes to Primal, well, it depends on who goes last to get their terrain set up. Terrain? Weather? They're setting up their weather. So yeah, it's Kyogre. Man, this guy gets a custom surf animation, and he would win in a fight? This guy gets everything. Pokemon number 383. Groudon. My boy. I am definitely on Team Groudon, even though I know he loses. He's just, so cool. This big old kaiju spews lava and such. Really neat. What can I say? Fire is one of my favorite typings, and even though he isn't fire, until the Primal, he's very associated with fire, so yeah, it counts, I guess. At least in my brain, to like him more, it counts enough. Also, it's kind of odd how Kyogre comes first, even though, we say Ruby Sapphire instead of Sapphire Ruby. It was the same thing last generation too, but then they finally fixed that next generation with those guys. So yeah, that's Groudon. Insert comparison to being a fan of some sports team that loses a lot. I don't know sports, so you guys pick one for me to compare Groudon, me liking Groudon too. Pokemon number 384. Rayquaza. Rayquaza, whatever. Rayquaza is yet another Omen this generation, because he's the first Dragon-type legendary Pokemon, and we all know we have an abundance of those nowadays. And of course, with Dragon being one of my favorite typings, I love Rayquaza. He's easily my favorite of the trio. He's just this really cool serpent flying thing that coils up when he, rests, in the sky and such. Very neat, very cool looking. And of course, shout out to his Mega, needing to be banned to an entirely new tier made just for him. So yeah, that's Rayquaza. Finally, after all these years, we've had enough cute long boys. Now we have an intimidating long boy. Pokemon number 385. Jirachi. Our first mythical Pokemon of Generation 3. Yes, first, they started introducing multiple this generation. I like Jirachi. It's cute. Has a neat, gimmick, story, whatever you want to call it, of the whole wish granting, waking up for 3 days every however many years, has that odd eye thing in its stomach, it's a neat looking mon. And while I definitely like it more than Celebi, Mew is still my favorite. Oh, and shout out to its signature move being absolutely terrible, just a slightly stronger copy of Future Sight. So yeah, Shirachi, you know what I'd wish for? It to have a better signature move. And for me to not have to spend an absurd amount of money to get that bonus disc just to get one from Coliseum. Pokemon number 386. Deoxys. Oh, here we go. Finally, a cool looking mythical instead of a cute. Deoxys is just this super cool alien thing with these weird DNA tentacle things that turn into hands, and he has all these different forms with different extremes and super lows for stats. Though it is kind of weird that the form he's in depends on the game he's in Gen 3. Thank goodness they fixed that immediately next generation. Oh, and there's that one scene in that YouTube video where Rayquaza shoots Deoxys, and there's a hole in Deoxys, and Deoxys like automatically repairs it and it looks all weird. Very cool. So yeah, that's Deoxys. Talk about ending Generation 3 on a really cool high note. Oh yeah, by the way, we're done with Generation 3. This is the last one. Should I bring it up? I'll bring it up. So I started watching One Piece. I guess I'll just drop the episode number I'm on every once in a while at the end of these videos. Just finished episode 30 the other day. Like I said, just started. Oh, by the way, One Piece update, I just finished episode 77 the other day. And if you're wondering how I watched so many episodes in between the last update, I didn't. The Illumise video was recorded like 5 days before being posted. And by the way, One Piece update, just finished episode 87 like right before recording this. Oh, and One Piece update, the latest episode I finished is 166. With the asterisk of I skipped that 13 episode anime original filler arc. Maybe I'll go back and watch it eventually when I'm all caught up with the main stuff, but for now, I want to watch the main important stuff. Oh, and One Piece update, the latest episode I finished is 275. It's safe to say I'm enjoying the series at this point. Oh, and One Piece update, the latest episode I finished is 299. And guys, it happened. I finally had that moment. That moment that, like, everybody always says, that whenever someone's watching One Piece for the first time, some scene, some moment gets them, and then they finally go, oh, I get it. And it finally happened for me. And, you know, almost 300 episodes in, it's a good thing I have some patience, and I was enjoying the series beforehand, so I could actually get to my aha moment. And then the tinge of irony that immediately after that aha moment, there's 6 episodes of recap that I fast-forwarded through, so it's like, ooh, feel pretty bad for people who were watching that live while it was airing week to week back in the day. Oh, and One Piece update. Another one so soon? Yes, I know, but I need to talk about it. So, latest episode I finished, 315, episode 312. I teared up over what happened to a ship. How is One Piece that good that it got me to care about and tear up over what happened to a ship? Bro, I already said One Piece was incredible last time, and now this? Oh, and One Piece update. The latest episode I finished is episode 382. And, man, it finally happened. Another thing that they always say about One Piece, where something's brought up, and then 200, 300 episodes later, it becomes relevant. And, like, I popped off, like, the moment before it was, like, explicitly revealed, because I caught on to what they were talking about. I was like, oh, they're bringing that back? They're bringing that up? That's important now? Ooh, that's cool. Oh, and One Piece update. The latest episode I finished is number 398. And I want to talk about the humor of One Piece for a moment. Now, it's not groundbreaking to say One Piece is funny, but here's the thing. One Piece's humor matches up really well with my own, which I've found, you know, a really nice surprise since it's a long-running show and, you know, it needs to be entertaining. And luckily it's, like, extra entertaining because, like, there are so many times in One Piece, especially recently with the recent stuff I've been watching, where they make a joke and I'm like, what's the kind of joke I would have made with my friends? That's, you know, it's just great that it's a, you know, similar sense of humor to myself. And then sometimes it makes a joke completely unexpected. Like, I would not seeing that coming, that you would joke about that, but that's hilarious that you actually thought of doing that, and the execution was so good. You know, One Piece, good show. That's about it. Oh, and One Piece update. The latest episode I finished is 421. And, oh no, would you look at that? I've run out of episodes on Netflix to watch, and Netflix is the only streaming service I have. However, will I be able to watch the rest of One Piece if not on Netflix? Somebody give me a straw hat. Oh, and One Piece update. The latest episode I finished is episode 464. And I gotta say, it's wild that I'm still interested in One Piece. I still want to keep watching. When there are like some 12 episode shows that I stop feeling like watching halfway through, you know? Oh, and One Piece update. The latest episode I finished is 520. And I'm into the time skip. Very exciting. Though apparently, post-time skip pre-Wano One Piece anime is terrible and I should just drop it and read the manga instead. We'll see. We'll see what happens, because here's the thing. I have something a lot of people nowadays don't have. Patience. He says in a video on the app that's single-handedly responsible for ruining people's attention spans. Oh, and One Piece update. The latest episode I finished is 580, which means I am now done with the first major arc of the time skip, and nope, haven't noticed any catastrophic drop in quality yet. Still the same old fantastic, super enjoyable, high-quality One Piece. Oh, and why not? It's the last Pokemon Gen 3 One Piece update. The latest episode I finished is 755, and man, it's wild how much of One Piece I've watched thus far. I started a third of the way through Generation 3, and now here I am at the end, closer to episode 800 than I am to 700. Absolutely wild. I definitely think I'm going to be finishing One Piece during Generation 4, before Generation 4 is over, which absolutely crazy to think about.